Most of us know that domestic violence or partner violence is a problem in our society generally, but many of you may not have thought about how it affects the workplace. My name is Susan DeGregorio, Standing Firm's Employer Services Coordinator, and welcome to our briefing on partner violence, recognition, and response in the workplace. The briefing is approximately 15 minutes long, so let's begin. When victims of partner violence or perpetrators of partner violence are employed, it can affect their work performance, accuracy, and behavior at work. It can also place the employee and his or her coworkers at risk. Partner violence, or domestic violence as it's more commonly known, is not something that people leave at home when they come to work. It follows them. The workplace and partner violence become entangled because the perpetrator exerts control over the victim's life at home and at work. You may have heard people say, it's a personal matter, it's none of my business, or that's between a husband and a wife, for example. These attitudes can intensify the isolation of victims by creating a barrier between the victim and those who may be in a position to provide much-needed support and assistance. The workplace can play an important role in assisting these individuals to access help and at the same time enhance the safety of the entire workforce. We also know that employment is a crucial factor for most adults to be financially and personally healthy. It is one of the most important factors in the capacity of a victim to take steps to end abuse and live in safety. Too often, victims lose their jobs as a result of the impact violence has on their ability to perform at work or maintain appropriate attendance. In fact, research reports that 56% of partner violence victims have lost at least one job because of the abuse. Today, we will explore partner violence and how partner violence impacts workers and the workplace. We will discuss how an organization can effectively recognize and address partner violence as a workplace concern. A word about who we are. Standing Firm has worked for the past 10 years to help employers recognize that partner violence is a business issue and to prepare their workplaces with a plan and the tools necessary to take action by adopting the recognize, respond, and refer model. The goals for today's briefing include increasing your understanding of partner violence, its impact on the workplace, your role as an employer in addressing partner violence, and steps you can take to respond effectively to partner violence incidents in the workplace. As a starting point, it's important to understand that partner violence can affect anyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, age, sexual orientation, race, or religion. The prevalence among some groups is higher, and certain risk factors increase the likelihood of being a victim of partner violence, but no one is immune. So you really can't guess who may or may not be in a violent relationship. And while partner violence crosses all socioeconomic, age, sexual orientation, race, and religious lines, there is a gender difference. 85% of victims are women. What is partner violence? It's the pattern of abusive psychological, emotional, financial, and/or physical behavior between two intimate partners in which one partner maintains power and control over their counterpart. Although most people associate partner violence with physical harm or sexual violence, it can present itself in many different ways. For example, as opposed to the bruise or black eye that can mark physical abuse, psychological violence is a less talked about form of partner violence that leaves no physical scar. This form of abuse includes intimidation, threats, and causing fear in one's partner. Abusers will go to great lengths to develop and maintain control of their partners. Control is the goal, and the behaviors listed here are the methods that the person uses to reach that goal. In 99% of partner violence situations, the perpetrator exerts financial control over the victim by limiting their access to resources. This could include controlling how money is spent, denying them access to money, withholding basic living resources such as medication and food, and stealing a partner's identity, money, credit, or property. In terms of workplace interference, perpetrators of partner violence will try to intimidate and distract their victims from their work. They will use tactics such as hiding car keys or money for transportation, keeping the victim up all night, cutting up work clothes, calling, emailing, or texting harassing messages throughout the day, showing up unannounced at or near the workplace, and discouraging the victim from socializing with coworkers. It's important to note that each situation is different and may involve some or all of these forms of abuse. Before we go any further, we want to talk about partner violence and sexual harassment, how they are the same and how they are different. Both affect victims, coworkers, and perpetrators' productivity. They are both based on a control, power over dynamic. They pose security threats and need employers to take action. And every effort should be made in both instances to promote victims asking for help. And employers should express their intolerance for either of these behaviors in the workplace. But the two are often used interchangeably, and there are very distinct differences. For example, with partner violence, the actual abuse typically happens outside the workplace. With sexual harassment, the perpetrator and the victim work in the same place, and the perpetrator uses the work hierarchy to exert power over the victim. Partner violence is often hidden at work by the victim, while sexual harassment may be observed and well known by many. These and other differences mean that effective responses to partner violence and sexual harassment, when they occur in the workplace, are not exactly the same. Our focus today is partner violence, but knowing these similarities and differences will help you as a leader think clearly about both of these important work disruptions. So why is partner violence an employer's business? First, how prevalent is partner violence? 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience severe physical violence at some point during their lifetime, with the greatest percentage between the ages of 18 and 40, which coincides with a person's peak working years. And these prevalence rates only reflect reported incidents of partner violence, and we know that many incidents are never reported. They also only reflect incidents of physical violence, and as mentioned earlier, there are many forms of partner violence that do not include physical violence. Given this data, an employer cannot avoid having employees in their workforce who are victims or perpetrators of partner violence. How does it affect the workplace? 83% of survivors report that the abuse impaired their ability to do their job. The impact is seen in increased absenteeism, mistakes and inaccuracies, and in distraction from duties. In addition, victims of partner violence incur significantly higher healthcare costs for the treatment of medical injuries and mental health concerns. Employers also must consider workplace safety. Research on workplace violence events report that 27% of workplace violence incidents are related to partner violence. And finally, for employers who are invested in gender equity and the advancement of all employees, partner violence derails a victim's education and career. Losing a job is an enormous setback for an individual who's trying to escape an abusive relationship, since financial independence can be what allows a person to safely leave. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration's General Duty Clause requires that each employer furnish to its employees a workplace that is free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. The following elements are necessary to prove a General Duty Clause violation. The employer fails to keep the workplace free of a hazard to which its employees were exposed. The hazard was recognized. The hazard was causing or was likely to cause death or serious harm. There was a feasible and useful method to correct the hazard. When an employee discloses that they are a victim of partner violence and there is a threat to the workplace, the employer has knowledge of a hazard to the workplace that could have lethal consequences, and it is their duty to take reasonable steps to keep the workplace safe by having a policy and a formal training program for its management and staff employees. There is a straightforward approach to enhancing the workplace in each of these important areas, but in order to move forward, we must confront some of the obstacles that keep employers from taking critically important prevention steps. 95% of employers believe management employees should be trained on partner violence and its impact on the workplace, but only 35% have taken the step to establish a policy, and even less, 20%, have offered training to management employees to recognize, respond, and refer when it occurs. Employers need to acknowledge that partner violence does impact the workplace and that it can impact any workplace. It is not a personal issue that someone leaves at home when they come to work, and therefore it significantly impacts the employee, their coworkers, and the organization. And employers are not expected to be a partner violence expert. However, it is reasonable to expect an employer to proactively prepare through policy and training. Through a policy and training, management and staff employees will learn how to recognize the signs of partner violence in the workplace. They will know how to respond safely and effectively. Partner violence is a complex situation, and often what we believe to be the right thing to do may actually put the victim in greater danger. And finally, management employees will know who the resources are, internal and external, that are in a position and have the expertise to help support the employee experiencing partner violence and keep the workplace safe. Thank you for your participation in today's briefing. To review some key takeaways from today's session, partner violence is affecting your workplace. You don't want to be in a reaction to the workplace. A response plan is necessary. And a partner violence policy is the first step. It helps create a culture where employees can access support and safety is a priority. However, the policy is only as successful as the procedures which support the policy implementation and administration. If you have any questions or need additional information, please don't hesitate to contact us through our website, www.standingfirmswpa.org. Thank you again for your participation.